Our speech, movement, memory, decision-making. All these vital everyday tasks are controlled by this one amazing organ. A major component of optimal brain health is the state of your neurons, the cells responsible for transmitting information in your brain, and the strength of the connections between neurons. As we age, experience stress, or cause damage to our brains, the connections between these neurons weaken, and these essential conveyors of information can become unhealthy or even die. But here's the good news. We can defend our brains against the effects of aging. Making healthy lifestyle choices like exercising and eating a well-balanced diet have long been known to contribute greatly to overall brain health. But in recent years, researchers have been looking for additional ways to increase brain function and enhance mood, focus, and memory. Recognizing the growing need for a safe, natural way to boost cognitive health, a team of scientists at Signum Biosciences set out to develop a safe, botanically based supplement that could sustain and enhance brain function, and that could also defend against mental decline by protecting the neuronal integrity in the brain. In laboratory studies, the Signum team, in association with Dr. Jeffre Stock at Princetone University, found that in study participants with severe mental decline, a key protein regulator was disrupted in their brains. This protein is called PP2A, and it keeps the neuronal connections in the brain robust and healthy.
PP2A virtually regulates everything that's going on in the cell. That includes gene expression, motility, your immune responses. Everything is controlled by PP2A. So in general, anything that starts to go bad, PP2A is involved in everything. It's also sensitive to all these sort of state variables that are important to general health.
After 20 years of research, Dr. Stock and the scientists at Signum made a groundbreaking discovery called EHT. EHT is a one-of-a-kind proprietary ingredient consisting of a naturally occurring mix of bioactive molecules isolated from coffee. EHT helps you fortify, protect, and enhance your mind.
EHT provides a functional benefit to old, middle-aged, and young, enhancing brain health and thus enhancing your quality of life.
As a senior research scientist, I haven't seen anything that's comparable to EHT and the way it functions for brain health.
When I visited Signum at Princetone University, and when I saw the research they were doing on EHT, I knew this was something that we had to have.
So how does EHT work? By optimizing the activity of the master protein regulator PP2A. When PP2A is activated by EHT, it can promote neuronal integrity by ensuring the structural protein tau remains on the microtubules, resulting in stronger neurons. Stronger neurons lead to the ability to create stronger synaptic connections. The result? Increased brain performance for a healthy, focused mind. EHT is safe, all-natural, and can be found only in Nerium's exclusive EHT age-defying supplement. This supplement promotes better cognitive function and overall brain health, improves memory and recall, fortifies and strengthens natural brain functions, increases focus and mental alertness, protects and supports neuronal networking, enhances the body's natural energy stores, and boosts the body's immune system.
I take the product, my 10-year-old and my 16-year-old take the product, my wife takes the product, and it's something that we all really believe in and have really felt the effects and seen it in our own lives as well.
At Nerium, we are dedicated to delivering real products and real results. And our partnership with Signum Biosciences ensures that Nerium's exclusive EHT age-defying supplement combines the very best of nature and science.
By the very nature of our technology and the strength of our patents, Signum's technology will never be replicated or duplicated. So you won't see EHT in another product globally.
I'm very enthusiastic about the partnership we're developing with Nerium to distribute EHT to a wide audience. So this is absolutely unique to Nerium.
It's never too late or too early to focus on brain health. Nerium's EHT age-defying supplement, coupled with a healthy lifestyle, can help protect and fortify your brain naturally. With the Signum Biosciences partnership and the patented and exclusivity to Nerium, we are poised to be a leader in the rapidly emerging market for cognitive health supplements.
We made the decision to not go after these synthetic libraries of compounds. We made the decision to go search the epidemiological data, search papers that were out there for botanicals that had reported cognitive enhancing effects.
The first positive thing that people saw with coffee drinking very early on was that people who tend to drink coffee don't tend to get Alzheimer's, don't tend to get Parkinson's disease.
For women, there's about a 60% reduction in getting diabetes, type 2 diabetes. There's about a 30% reduction in getting Alzheimer's disease. And that reality is one of the reasons why we went and looked at coffee.
People have tried to develop drugs for caffeine because it's generally been assumed that caffeine is the major beneficial effect from coffee. So we looked to see if the compound we identified, EHT, would have that effect. And those were our first experiments were with Parkinson's.
As Jeff had mentioned previously, we believed or hypothesized that because of the centrality of the mechanism that Jeff has been studying and that we've been studying and that our technology is based around, which is PP2A, which is this enzyme, there would be things in everyday life that people are consuming that would affect that target. And because of the reality that coffee has those effects, we decided to go after coffee and screen it against this mechanism. And lo and behold, it was active. It clearly, in a very robust way, affected PP2A in a positive way.
What we think EHT does, and in a biochemical sense, it interacts with PP2A and helps to keep PP2A healthy and helps to maintain this whole regulatory apparatus in the right way. And so it could be a generally useful molecule, and the first one we've identified, I think we'll be able to identify more that may have a general effect to prevent aging and help performance and help healthy people be a little bit more healthy.
So PP2A regulates a protein called tau. And tau is a microtubule associated protein. So in a neuron, you have a structural system in the neuron, which are microtubules. And a good way to think about microtubules, it's almost the skeleton of the cell, right? So it gives the cell its form, right? And it also is train tracks of the cell. So it allows things to move around a cell, right? A neuron. And other cells as well, but we'll talk about neurons, right? Because that's what gets messed up when you have dementia and you have bad memory and you age, your neurons age and die. And so microtubules are really the transport system and give the neuron structure. So this tau protein makes up these microtubules.
Neurons have these long extensions called axons that sometimes can be, up to a yard long or so, of these very, very narrow channels which lead to the connections to other neurons, synapses. And those channels have the microtubules, so it's like a railroad track, and they're motor proteins that transport stuff to and from the synapses where they connect to other nerves, and that's the way the nervous system works.
PP2A regulates this tau protein. And so in order for tau to do its job and play its role in having very, very solid microtubules that are healthy and are able to do the job that they are meant to do, PP2A has to be in its optimal state. And PP2A's optimal state is what EHT promotes. And so by taking me sports, and which is active component of which is EHT, that promotes PP2A to be in its most functional state, which allows it to regulate tau and have very robust microtubule formation. And the microtubules are essential for that axon, for that synapse to happen. And so that's one of the things that'll happen when you get microtubules start to get messed up, is that synapse will disconnect. And that is what makes up your brain is all these connected synapses. And so when you start to lose memory, that means these synapses are breaking.
You're losing those connections.
You're losing those
and those connections are what constitutes memory. So you, and learning.
It's who you are as a person. And so all those connections and the randomness of those connections, and those connections happen, and that's how your brain forms its roadmap of the world and is you. So your perception, your memories, who you are as a person are the amalgam of all those synapses.
The mechanisms that cells use to generate energy, for instance, and use oxygen, respiration, each individual cell basically burns glucose to produce energy. But as one ages, that process gets leaky, and you get reactive oxygen species get produced, and those lead to inflammation. You don't have as much energy, so the repair systems start to fall apart. So there's this general process of aging, right? And that impinges on everything that's going on in the cell, but the way PB2A comes in is it's this global regulator. So as long as you have energy metabolism, you have metabolic synthesis of precursors, you have protein synthesis, you have all the sort of nuts and manufacturing that goes on in cells. But superimposed on that, and about half the genes that are in a cell are regulatory.
Jeff was studying PP2A. He wasn't looking at neurodegenerative diseases in any way, shape, or form. And once we discovered that PP2A was a regulator of tau, that's when the light started to go off.
We didn't discover that. That was discovered.
Once we found out about it.
The main guy that did it was Iqbal on Staten Island.
Dr. Khalid Iqbal.
Yeah, and he was the pioneer he studied tau, the tau protein. He's an expert on, and has spent his life working on Alzheimer's disease. I have come to Alzheimer's disease only very recently.
Dr. Iqbal's the founder of the International Alzheimer's Conference. He's a big part of what we're doing. He's a scientific advisor to Signum.
He did a study.
We just published a paper with Dr. Iqbal showing EHT's ability to rescue the effects of hyperphosphorylated tau deficit
in a rat model for Alzheimer's that he's developed. And so there are two cytological things that you can see at autopsy in the brain of a person who has Alzheimer's disease.
But also in the brain of a football player that's died from CTE. Not just somebody with Alzheimer's, but when they crack open a football player, let's say they cracked open Junior Seau's brain, they also saw what Jeff's about to describe.
Right, so what you see is these inclusions, they're aggregated proteins that are in the neurons that are associated with neurodegeneration.
Neurofibrillary tangles.
And they're called neurofibrillary tangles. They actually look like little tangles of protein that are not there in a healthy brain. And they're very closely associated with the neurodegenerative process. And they have this protein tau. And Dr. Iqbal and a lot of other people have studied that has been a clue to try to understand how Alzheimer's works. Right. And it turns out that this PP2A protein interacts with tau as Max has described. So that's we could put that together with the work I had been doing on PP2A just in the laboratory without any regard for any disease at all. My work was on a modification of PP2A. So what was known at the time and has been established in many different laboratories is that the defect in tau is related to a defect in the regulation of PP2A. And what I discovered at Princeton was a key mechanism in the regulation of PB2A that's defective turns out to be defective in Alzheimer's. So that's what seems to happen in neurodegenerative disease, in cancer, in type 2 diabetes. your aging is the primary problem, right? Things are falling apart. You're not able to do things as well. But as long as you keep that regulatory network intact, you can keep functioning. You know, you're not functioning as well. You're degrading, but you're still able to keep the whole thing together, and you don't get disease. You keep your connections. You still have your memory, right? But when you start to lose PB2A, which is the big cop in the regulating everything, when that regulation starts to become compromised, then the whole thing falls apart. And then all the regulatory processes which used to be working more or less in an orchestrated way, and it's so complicated what's going on in just one cell. I can't emphasize that more. I don't think people realize how complicated the biochemistry is that regulates things and that performs all these functions. Once that starts to fall apart, then you have cancer, you have neurodegenerative disease, you're toast.